Mm,
Oh, didn't mean to press that straight away.
okay, now I know what to say.
All right, guys. 6 weeks. You're done. Um,
Quickly, very quickly.
I know it's really strange. And I'm not gonna lie, I've learned a fair bit. This is the first time that we've done this. And hopefully we're gonna be doing it a lot more. We're gonna try and do a few of these 4 to 6 week sort of, I don't want to say challenges, but refocusing points throughout the year with the gym. And this was, yeah, the first one we've ever done. And we really wanted to impart what we think is really important and what research has shown is really important in that sort of habits, choices, a little bit of a touching on the macro side of things. And we might run a sort of nutrition specific
Yeah.
few weeks, but yeah. So, Andrew, what have you learned in the last 6 weeks?
I definitely learned that when you're in the field of something, or even when you're just around something for a long time, the little nuances or those little foundational things tend to get lost in the wind. And not by saying not doing them, but you do them so often that you almost forget that other people don't know about them or other people don't implement those things. So just going over those simple things like water in your day, protein with every meal, working out a few days a week, and just being accountable for them. Um, we're cool to kind of see who's already doing those things, who's like, oh wow, I don't know about that, and then who's really kind of like dove full speed and enjoyed some of the process. So that was surprising to me a little bit for sure. Also, just being a little bit more accountable myself. Like when you're checking in with everybody, and then they're
Mm,
asking you right back, you have to kind of, I'm not gonna BS you guys. I'm gonna give it to you straight. Hey, what'd you have today for lunch? Or hey, did you do the workout today? And um, most of you guys know I if it's one of those strength days, more often than not, yes, I jumped in. But if it's one of the other days, depending on what my schedule's got going on, I may have done something else, or I may have done the workout the day previous, or whatever. So it just kind of depends. And I know a lot of times they'll say to somebody, "Oh yeah, I did that one," and they'll ask for time, or they'll look at me weird when I say, "No, I didn't do that one." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, I did X, Y, and Z already today. This doesn't line up with my plan." So just kind of being a little bit more accountable with what we're actually doing and what we're actually preparing and being able to back up our words with what we're doing.
yeah, it's that whole walking the walk, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
like I don't know, I've been doing a bit of just like looking around and trying to be a bit more observant, especially in what I'm following and taking in on Instagram and social media. And the amount of times that you look at influencers or people who are talking about nutrition and you're just like, I wonder if they're actually walking the walk or just talking the talk.
Yeah.
Like, are they actually practicing what they're saying? And I think that's where like our gym guys have a really different perspective because they can actually just ask us, and I'm fairly sure they'll be able to tell if we're BSing or not,
Yeah.
because they'll
No,
see our
sure.
performance.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a really unique opportunity for people who are in the gym and have access to people who have been in the space a long time and who are actually gaining knowledge and trying to like follow the right things to give
Yeah.
them the right information.
Well, and then also knowing it's not perfect. And like we've said multiple times, is that we both have those days where we just let loose and kind of let our body and our time
Yeah.
make those decisions. And sometimes it's for the better and others it's for the worse. But we have to also remind ourselves that that's okay because we're enjoying our time with our family, our loved ones, or maybe we just didn't leave enough time in the day to cook dinner. But I'm not going to beat myself up about that. I'm going to eat the best decision or the best choice what I have available. And then tomorrow I'm going to make better choices and start over again.
Yeah.
And just kind of reminding them that that's okay. We all have faults. We all fall over. We just got to pick ourselves back up and start again.
It's such good timing, and I knew you'd bring something like this up. But I literally just, again, I follow a nutrition coach, Kate Gordon. she is very straight down the line. And she just posted something with the, are you going to do 10,000 steps or are you going to do zero? Are you going to eat lettuce or are you going to eat pizza?
Yeah.
Are you going to kill yourself at the gym or are you not going to go? And it's that choice of absolute perfection or reckless abandon.
And that's where we lose a lot of people because they're like, I'm not gonna hit that perfect. Well, it's like not for nothing, but
Yeah.
fuck that.
Yeah. I know. It's like life is not either
Yeah.
or. It's like you've
Do
got to,
take the dog for a walk around the block.
yeah.
Do 50 air squats really quick and then get back to your job. Whatever you can squeak in the day, again, is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to at least kickstart. And then after you have a bunch of those better than nothing days, you kind of grow and grow and grow, and it gets better without you even really thinking about it.
Yeah. I actually want to congratulate you for something I know you've been working on for longer than 6 weeks. And I mean, this has probably been a year, and you've celebrated the
Yep.
milestones in between, and you're a really good example of this. But congrats on the marathon.
Oh, thank you.
But like, I think you're a real testament to like you've just followed the process,
Yeah. No,
and
definitely wasn't in a rush. And you know just as well as I, we're surrounded by those speed demons. Like, what's your time? What pace do you run? How fast did you do this? And
yeah,
I kind of said to myself at the beginning of the running journey, like again, a year, maybe a year and a half ago, a little bit more at the very, very most, um, was I'm not worried about that. I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life or as long as I choose to. And I'm not going to let speed dictate that, but I would like to increase my mileage. And I've talked to a bunch of people who have been there before and done it before and are still doing it
yeah,
and kind of bounced a lot of questions off of them. And that's really always been one of my go-tos with everything. Everything nutrition, everything fitness, everything really is I go to the people who are those foundational leaders in their field or as close as I can get to that person,
yeah,
pick their brain because who better to ask? You know what I mean? Or who better to kind of like at least get a feel for? Is that person honest? Is that person really doing what they're saying? Or
mm,
are they doing some shady stuff and that's not really the route you want to go to get
yeah,
that same finishing point? So I kind of talked to some of our members and then they kind of introduced me to some other people and let me talk to some more elite runners. I talked to some people who used to run in the past and some collegiate runners and when a lot of things start to cross paths, that's where I find the good stuff. So um we all have these different peaks and valleys of things we're really good at and then there's these little middle grounds where it's like, well, why are we meeting there? And that's again usually where the good stuff is.
yeah. No, it's really good. It's really cool to see when people do follow a process and are curious
Yeah.
because I think that's the real sweet spot that sometimes we forget. It's like sometimes we think we know everything, and it's like, well, no, there's always something new to learn, and there's always like a different vantage point to come from.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's that whole like making the right choices for you along the way or for themselves to get them along, keeping them along the path that they want to end up being. And it's that real choice of, okay, so who do I want to be this morning? Like, who am I going to
Yeah.
be? We are lucky enough where a large percentage of us get to choose that,
Yep.
or part of that at least every morning when we wake up. And I think that's a real powerful thing to realize. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's just that whole process. I've really fallen back in love with a little bit. That whole, all right, so what's gonna move the needle here? What's gonna change this? And actually reflecting a lot more because what I've realized in the last 6 weeks is I am not eating nearly enough.
Yeah.
And just not holding myself accountable on that. It's like I was when I started looking at my protein every day and making sure I was tracking and everything else because I was tracking my protein, I was tracking everything else and realizing I am not eating nearly enough carbs and
Yeah.
and everything else. And that's probably why my perform well, actually is why my performance has been rubbish the past few weeks. Um,
Okay.
and it's like I'm not giving my body what it needs to be able to do things. And so many people just think, oh, I'll train harder, oh, I'll do that, and I'll, all the hacks. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no, maybe you just need to eat something.
Yeah, like you said, you got to go back to the root of it or what your foundation is, and that's kind of why we didn't start this whole reboot or reassessment or relook at our program here as a nutrition thing because nutrition is one of those foundations. So we wanted to be able to kind of put some of those habits in play first to
Yeah.
kind of get used to those things, and then we can look back and say, okay, hey, how was the nutrition? How was your hydration? How was your sleep?
Yeah.
And if you can't look at those three things right away and kind of at least have an idea of how some stuff is going without looking at your Whoop or looking at your Apple or whatever you going on, those are things that you should be able to feel out a little bit without your tech. Now, when you
Yeah.
have the tech, you can really dive into it a little deeper. I know a few of us at the gym were chatting about heart rate monitors and stuff like that, and a lot of them were asking me like, "My watch is saying this is happening and this is happening," and a few conversations with them. Hey, the watch is great and it will be consistent, but if you want something more accurate, you should get a chest strap.
Yeah.
Of them were like, "What?" And I was like, "That's why they're made. They connect to your watch and blah blah blah." So
Yeah.
that's going to give you a more accurate, obviously, because it's a much closer to the organ. It's going to help with everything there and
Moves with your body. A watch is going around your wrist.
loses connection constantly. But it's a good baseline to kind of start with. It was a conversation with somebody about a zone 2 run. They're like, I just can't get the zone 2. I can't get the zone 2. And I'm like, were you talking with somebody? Well, yeah. I said, were you able to kind of speed up and slow down if you needed to? Well, yeah. I said, you were in zone 2.
Yeah.
I said, if not, you maybe were in zone 3. Oh my goodness. But you were in that low cadence zone where you could chat and you were not running out of breath. Yeah. Okay. That's another good sign that you're probably where you need to be.
And tidbit on all of these like devices that we have, like realistically, you've got to, and same with tracking, like nutrition labels aren't necessarily perfect. They don't have to be according to the rules and regulations. They can be within X amount.
Yeah. I mean,
Either side.
with the last one with the supplements, like with it says proprietary blend, that pretty much means they can put whatever they want in there.
Yeah.
Granted, they're not really looked at by the FDA, but that's me ranting. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but it's just that you've got to, again, with that perfection aspect, it's like, and again, where people get into that mindset of, if I exercise this amount, I've earned that much calories. It's like, no, you haven't earned. There's no earning. Your body deserves food no matter what. Like your brain still needs to function. But anyhow, that would be my side rant. But when you're looking at, like, I've got a Whoop and a Garmin, but I take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be plus or minus X amount, either calories, steps. And you have to be realistic on that, because if you're aiming for perfection, unless you are going into a lab setting with controlled variables, and you're doing things hooked up to monitors and to, a breathing system and things like that, you are not getting exact. You are getting a plus or minus 10, I don't want to say like 10% because it's a really arbitrary number, but plus and minus 8%
but it's close, but it's not actually there. And then the same thing with the medical stuff, like that stuff's not comfortable either. So for the most part, you're not really normal there either. I mean, I've seen people if you've ever seen anybody take a VO2 test.
Sorry, like a visceral reaction to that.
Like you're literally gagging while you're running with this stuff on.
Yeah.
Biting on a mouthpiece, and it's a really odd contraption. And that's what they stake your VO2 max on, and it's like, okay, great. But again, it's being relative to the next person or to the next athlete that's on there, not necessarily exact. And granted, it's just a different thing.
And that's where I think reflection again is really important, and journaling if you're specific on training, because like things like body composition.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that's and the actual physical machine's name escapes me, but you can stand on one of those scales that you hold the handles, or you can get a DEXA scan. But I think the important variable, or the important delta on that is you're looking like take that as your baseline.
Yes.
And if you're wanting to improve your body composition, you look for a drop. Like
Yeah.
you have to look for the delta rather than looking at the number.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I've gotten on multiple different brands of those, and some you get off feeling really good about, and some you get off feeling really bad about. But like you just said, you have to realize, depending on the tech and how good or bad it is, or how new or old it is, or what, if your
How
foot's a
much
little bit
water
wet.
you've drunk in the last 5 days. Like
So it's a really iffy thing. And like you said, it's just use that as a baseline and then up or down from there.
yeah.
Just the same as you would if you got on somebody else's scale. Sometimes they're a pound heavy or a pound light.
Yeah, don't whenever you get in, like go to someone's house and go to the bathroom and see a set of scales, don't stand on them. Like it's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
I've learned that. Um, all right. So like going through choices, going through habits.
So so I can relate mine a little bit because like we were saying with the running journey,
Mm,
since it's been essentially a 2 year thing, there's definitely been peaks and valleys.
mm,
One time I remember maybe just before my first half marathon, maybe I think it was a couple months before it, like 2 months before it, I was running in New Jersey and I didn't have proper running shoes, but my miles were getting up there and I was feeling comfortable and confident. And then I went for a little bit longer run than I probably should have with shoes with very minimal padding and structure. So I got to where I was going, it was fine. And then my hip started feeling weird. And
mm,
so I was like, oh, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then of course you get on the plane and you come home. And then like I couldn't run properly without pain
mm.
for at least 3 or 4 days. So I was like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And then I had to like dive in and stretch and do mobility more than I was multiple days a week. And that was something I had to add in to be able to kind of get that volume to be a little bit more consistent. Now, there was a couple times during those 3 or 4 days where I was like, am I done running? Is this it? Am I going to
Yeah.
squat again? Just because sometimes, there's those weird pains or feelings or positions you get in and you're just like, whoa, what did I do?
Yeah.
This, I've done way worse and this doesn't feel like this. And so it's just having that doubt is 100% normal. It's just sometimes it lasts a little longer than others. So you guys remember that's what having people around for, or again, like you're
Cool.
saying, write it down
Yeah.
because you can look back on it in a couple days and go, oh man, why was I doubting myself? And then you can have your own self gratification of like, hey, look, I just showed myself that I could beat this or I could achieve whatever I wanted to and overcome
Yeah.
whatever I was doubting myself with.
And it's that whole even showing up with your 100% for the day. Like
Yeah.
you're no one else is on your journey. Like you some days it's like the cards are stacked against you, but you still turn up to the gym because you know that something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's 100% in your books. And
Yeah.
that's all that needs to happen. Like again, like there are ups and downs, but the fact that you kept on moving, you dove in, did what you needed to do because it was a priority to you and it
Yeah.
was important and
Oh
you
yeah.
could
And
choose.
believe me, mentally, I wanted to get out and go running, and it was beating me up because before I started running, I never had that thought. I never was like, "Oh, I want to go run." I miss going out for a
Is
few miles.
it?
It was a weird thing. So I thought like, I don't want to lose that
Yeah.
because if I lose that, am I going to get it back? And those were like the weird bad thoughts that got into my head. And I'm like, look, if I got myself there once, I can get myself there again.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, my journey then was to go sit in the corner of the gym and to do 2 minutes in each position and set a clock timer for it. Because before I was maybe only doing like a minute or 45 seconds of position and not getting that proper deep stretch or that proper mobility position where when you put 2 minutes on, it seems like it's freaking
Eternity.
2 hours.
Yeah. Eternity.
So like when I'm done doing 6 stretches and they're each on, each side, I'm there for like 12 to 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So like that's a good amount of time devoted to rehab and care to be able to go do other things. And before I just wasn't doing that because you and I both know we wake up super early in the morning, and if we're going to go for a run, we maybe take 2 minutes to loosen up, maybe,
Don't tell anyone.
and go for a run. Okay. On
Yeah.
good days, yes, we'll sit there, we'll do some leg swings, we'll get our calves and our ankles open and stuff. But for the most part, on some of those super early ones, we're like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
up. I want to start moving
We're
sooner,
gone.
and then you're gone.
Yeah.
So, not being able to do that was definitely eating at me, and knowing that I had to add a few things in to be able to continue to do that, that just became part of my process. So now, before I go out on a run, I take at least 3 to 5 minutes and do a few little things, and then I go from there.
But that's a whole change management piece or change maintenance. It's like, okay, so X or the end result is the priority. I am choosing that as my priority. So I'm going to have to do something to change.
Yeah,
And then you see the results from that change. And then it's okay, so how do I adapt this into working with my daily schedule? So that's really what I would want people to walk away with after 6 weeks. It's like, okay, change is hard.
yeah,
If something is a priority to me and I'm choosing it as a priority, and when I say priority, it's not like a project, like you have to do something at work and
no,
it's
no, it's
it's like
an
something
important
that's
thing.
important enough for you to want
Yeah,
it for long enough. Um, like being able to run a 5K, being able to run a marathon, being able to go back to competition. Um, like it isn't life or death, but it's something that I'm putting as a priority in my lifestyle.
yes,
And choosing what you need to change and then, prioritizing those changes. Like it's all those little choices. And for people to realize that it's just a case of showing, and well, I say it's just a case. Sometimes just showing up is difficult, but it's a case of showing up every day
yeah.
in forward momentum.
Forward momentum. I mean, I say that constantly. Always forward. I mean,
Always.
if you can try, you got to try to go forward.
Yeah.
There's a song that I listen to when I'm running, and it's funny because it says, I run when I can, I'll walk if I have to, and I'll crawl if I must. And it's just one of those things that like it
Yeah.
keeps me going for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And you got to pick those little things like, and so the second thing that I would like people to take away from the 6 weeks is again with the choice, but choosing yourself, like
Yeah,
doing this for or becoming that better version of yourself for
yeah,
yourself.
big time.
It's
I mean, when you're sitting there at who knows what hour in the morning looking at that alarm, unless your partner's looking at you saying, turn that stinking alarm off, really nobody else there telling you to
yeah,
get go.
yeah,
So that's really on you. And that's, I mean, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter what time it is. It's
mm,
sometimes more difficult when it's dark and cold and you don't have any food in you yet, but same feeling midday, same feeling at night, same feeling whenever. You guys have to make that decision for yourself, just like we do. We have to choose that that's what we're going to do for the day, and we're going to stick with it. And like we said, sometimes it turns out good, and sometimes not so good. But again,
sometimes it's a gut check lesson, and that's what you need sometimes.
yeah, and we always say too, like you're definitely going to learn from those mistakes because they're pretty imprinted into your system. So,
Yeah,
it's again, it goes back to what we said, remember those good things because a lot of times we forget those good things because they weren't so traumatic.
yeah, it's a
Um,
lot easier for our brain to associate with the negative.
big time, big
Yeah.
time. So we want to try to remember that all those wins did happen, especially when we're going towards a big one.
Mm,
And once we get there, sit in it for a minute. I know that was one of the things we talked about before
yeah.
is really sit in that moment for a minute and don't just go like, okay, checkpoint, move on next. Like Jacqueline has been reminding me all week. She's like, babe, you ran a marathon. And I'm just like, I know. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Crazy. Like,
Yeah.
so it is one of those things where you have to sit back and take a second and go, oh shit, that really did happen. I did put those weeks and months and all that time in, and
Yeah.
same thing with everybody. Like whatever their goal is,
Mm,
if you put that time in, it's super achievable. And especially like again, what you said a couple times in our other chats, like tell somebody about it, write it
Mm,
down, put it out into the world. As soon as others know, they're either going to be rooting for you or rooting against you, and either way, it's
yeah.
good. It's really good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's always a good place to start with.
No, definitely. Just looking at this, we've got 2 minutes left. So what I'll probably end with is thank you guys. Thank you
Yeah,
for being part of this with us. I mean, we are here as coaches. You can always talk to Andrew and myself, whether you want one-on-one or with either of us, or if there's a combo of stuff that you guys, there's a like next steps. If anyone wants to talk about sort of where you go from here,
yeah. Just
grab one
because
of
we're
us.
done with our 6 weeks doesn't mean we're done with you guys. Like,
No. And there is going to be stuff like, especially if you're looking for recipes, once the website gets up and rolling, there will be a blog and recipes on there that'll be a lot more frequent. And we'll make sure that you guys have access to that. So that should be coming as well. But if you want to talk to either of us about next steps, just reach out. And well done for even just putting your hand up and taking part, because a lot of people aren't willing to even do that. So
yeah,
I'm going
I
to leave
can't
you with that.
I can't tell you how many people, at least 5 or 6 people, came up to me after week one and were like, "Oh, you have to tell me when the next one is. Oh, you need to tell me when the next one is. I want to get into that." So, yeah, congratulations, guys. Thank you for being a little bit vulnerable and reaching out and like letting us pick your brains and help you with your journey and trying to set some goals and some new habits. And just like Kira said, don't be a stranger. Talk to us. Ask. I know some of you were more vocal in the gym, some of you were more vocal on the apps and stuff, but you guys all engaged with us. So please just continue. If you're getting hung up on any of those skills and or anything else like that, or if you're progressing past the skill, ask for the next step. Okay. We're in the
20 seconds.
thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. We'll keep you posted on socials and email, but come talk to us if you want to know anything else. All right,
Sounds good.
guys. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. See you soon, Andrew.
All right, I'll see you later.
Bye.